It is a little after 4 in the morning in a quiet college town in Idaho. Most of the lights on King's Road are off. A dog gives a half-hearted bark, then settles. Inside a 3-story rental home, 6 roommates who are best friends, partners, and kids really are either asleep or just about to be. Within less than half an hour, 4 of them will be gone. No screaming heard by neighbors, no broken glass, no fire, no gunshots. Just a house that slowly, silently goes still. And for weeks, absolutely no one knows who did it or why. Hi everyone, welcome to Haunted Action. I am your host Nazif, and today we are talking about the murders of 4 University of Idaho students in Moscow, Idaho.
The Haunted Action podcast contains mature themes, including references to real-world crime and disturbing events. It is intended for adult audiences. While non-graphic, some listeners may find the content distressing. Please listen with care, pause if you need to, and use headphones around others. Listener discretion is advised.
November 13th, 2022. A quiet college town in Idaho, Moscow. 4 young lives cut short in a single night. The Idaho College murders shocked the nation and left a community searching for answers. What happened in that house on King's Road? How did a case that seemed impossible to solve eventually led to an arrest? And what does this tragedy tell us about safety, justice, and the fragility of life? Today we are diving deep into one of the most disturbing and closely watched criminal cases in recent memory. Moscow, Idaho is not the kind of place where you expect something like this to happen. It is a small university town tucked into the rolling hills of the Palos region, home to about 25,000 people. The University of Idaho dominates the landscape and the culture. Students make up a huge portion of the population, and the town has that classic college atmosphere. Doors are often left unlocked. Violent crime is almost unheard of. The victims were 4 students who had their whole lives ahead of them. Kaylee Gonclaves, 21 years old, was a senior majoring in general studies. She was described by everyone who knew her as vibrant, loyal, and full of life. She had just landed into a job in Austin, Texas, and was excited about starting her career. Madison Morgan, also 21. She was Kylie's best friend. The two were inseparable, practically sisters. Maddie was studying marketing and was known for her infectious smile and kind heart. Zana Carnodal, 20, was a junior studying marketing and human resources. She was passionate about her studies and deeply loved by her family. She was passionate about her studies and was deeply loved by her family and friends. Ethan Chapin, 20, was a freshman majoring in recreation, sport, and tourism management. He was Zana's boyfriend, a triplet and by all accounts a genuinely good person who lit up every room he entered. These four young people shared a house at 1120 2 King Road, just off the campus. It was a typical college rental, a 3-story home where 6 students lived together. The house had a somewhat unusual layout due to the sloping terrain. What appeared to be the second floor from the front was actually the main entrance, with bedrooms on the top floor and more bedrooms on what was technically the ground floor at the back. 2 other roommates lived on that lower level. This layout would become crucial to understanding how the crimes unfolded and how 2 people in the house survived. The night of November 12th started like so many other college weekends. Kaylee and Maddie went to a local bar called the Corner Club, a popular spot near campus. Surveillance footage and witness accounts show them there, enjoying the evening seemingly without a care in the world. They left around 1:30 in the morning and stopped at a food truck called the Grub Truck, a late-night staple for hungry students. Video from the food truck shows them ordering pasta, chatting, and checking their phones, just being normal college kids at the end of a night out. They got a ride home and were back at the King Road house by 2 in the morning. Zana and Ethan had a different evening. They were at a fraternity party on campus. Friends reported seeing them there, having a good time together. They returned to the house sometime around 1:45 in the morning. Ethan didn't live in that house, but he was staying over with Zana that night, something he did regularly. The 2 surviving roommates also had been out that evening and returned home at around 1 in the morning. By 2 in the morning, all 6 people were in the house. Within the next few hours, 4 of them would be dead. What happened next is still chilling to think about. Sometime between 3 and 4 in the morning, an intruder entered the house. The exact entry point and method became key details in the investigation. The killer moved through the home with what investigators would later describe as a targeted approach. Kaylee and Maddie were in a 3rd-floor bedroom. Zana and Ethan were in a 2nd-floor bedroom. The 2 surviving roommates were on the 1st floor, in bedrooms at the back of the house. The attack was brutal and swift. All 4 victims died from multiple stab wounds. The weapon was a large fixed blade knife. There were no signs of sexual assault, and the coroner would later determine that the victims were likely asleep or in bed when attacked. The surviving roommates heard something that night. One of them later told police she heard crying and a male voice saying something like, "It's okay. I am going to help you." She opened her door and saw a figure dressed in black, wearing a mask, walking towards the back door. She was frozen in fear and locked herself in her room. This detail would become one of the most discussed and debated aspects of the case. Why didn't she call 911 immediately? The answer is complicated and deeply humane. Trauma, shock, fusion, fear, and the surreal nature of what she witnessed all played a role. The 911 call did not come until nearly 8 hours later at 11:58 in the morning on November 13th. The call was made from one of the surviving roommates' phones, but multiple people spoke to the dispatcher. The call was reported as an unconscious person, which struck many as odd given what had actually occurred. Police later explained that the roommates and friends who had come over that morning saw something horrifying, but may have been in such shock they couldn't fully articulate it. When officers arrived, they found a scene that would haunt them forever. 4 young people dead in their beds in a house that should have been a safe space. The community's reaction was immediate and intense. Parents started pulling their kids out of school. Students who stayed were terrified. The university tried to reassure everyone. But how do you reassure people when 4 students have been brutally murdered and there is no suspect? Vigils were held. Flowers and tributes piled up outside the King Road house. The victim's family spoke to the media. Their grief was raw and overwhelming. Kaylee's father, Steve Goncalves, became a particularly vocal presence, pushing for answers and expressing frustration with the pace of the investigation. His pain was palpable, and his determination to find justice for his daughter resonated with many people across the country. The impact rippled far beyond Moscow. A local business owner described the town as being in a state of suspended animation. People were afraid to leave their homes, afraid to let their kids walk to school, the sense of safety gone. Students at the University of Idaho reported sleeping with lights on, barricading doors, and some even sleeping in groups because they were too afraid to be alone. The case quickly became a national obsession, sparking intense conversations about campus safety across the country. Universities everywhere began reviewing their security protocols. Parents demanded answers about what protections were in place for off-campus housing. Most security measures focus on on-campus housing, but the majority of upperclassmen off-campus in houses and apartments with minimal security. The true crime community's response was unprecedented. Within days, amateur sleuths were combining through social media, analyzing every photo and post from the victims' accounts. Reddit threads exploded with theories. TikTok videos dissecting the case racked up millions of views. The Moscow Police Department was in over its head from the start, and they knew it. This was a small department in a small town that typically dealt with noise complaints and minor thefts. They immediately called in help from the Idaho State Police and the FBI. A task force was formed. Dozens of investigators descended on Moscow. They conducted hundreds of interviews, collected thousands of tips, and processed a massive amount of evidence. But in those early days and weeks, there was no clear suspect, no murder weapon, no obvious motive. The public was desperate for information, and the police were tight-lipped, which only fueled speculation and frustration. The forensic challenges were staggering. Moscow Police Chief James Fry acknowledged in a press conference that the crime scene was one of the most complex his team had ever encountered. The house itself was a forensic nightmare. 6 people lived there, and countless others had visited in the days and weeks before the murders. The forensic team worked around the clock. They collected over 100 pieces of physical evidence, took thousands of photographs, and created detailed 3-dimensional scans of every room. The killer likely tracked evidence between rooms, making it difficult to establish a clear sequence of events. One of the biggest challenges was the lack of forced entry. How did the killer get in? The house had multiple doors, and investigators had to determine which one was used and whether it had been locked. They examined every window, every possible entry point. The fact that the killer seemed to know the layout of the house suggested either prior surveillance or familiarity with similar college rentals. The absence of the murder weapon complicated everything. Without the knife, investigators couldn't definitively match wounds to a specific blade or link a suspect to the weapon. They searched dumpsters, drainage systems, wooded areas, and bodies of water within a radius. Idaho State Police Captain Roger Lanier told reporters, "Finding that weapon is critical, but we are dealing with a suspect who may have had hours to dispose of it before anyone even knew a crime had occurred." Digital forensics became a crucial component of the investigation. Investigators obtained warrant for the victims' phones, computers, and social media accounts. They analyzed call logs, text messages, location data, and online activity, looking for any connection to a potential suspect or any indication of threats or stalking. They also pulled surveillance footage from dozens of cameras around Moscow. Piecing together a timeline, all this data required sophisticated software and hundreds of hours of analysis. The FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit was brought in to create a profile of the killer. What kind of person commits a crime like this? The profile suggested someone organized, familiar with the area, possibly with knowledge of criminal investigation techniques. An agent involved in the case noted that lack of digital footprint and the apparent ability to enter and exit without being detected suggested someone who had planned carefully and understood how to avoid leaving evidence. As the investigation dragged on with no arrest, the pressure on law enforcement intensified. Some accused the police of incompetence. Others suggested a cover-up. The reality was that investigators were working an incredibly difficult case with few leads and enormous public scrutiny. The veteran homicide detective from another jurisdiction observed that solving a case like this requires patience, methodical work, and often a bit of luck. The public wants immediate answers, but good police work takes time. One of the first challenges was the crime scene itself. The house was a treasure trove of DNA, fingerprints, and trace evidence. But that's true of any college house where multiple people live and countless others visit. Sorting through what was relevant and what was just background noise was a monumental task. Forensic team spent days processing the scene, working in methodical grids, and photographing every surface, collecting samples from hundreds of locations. In a house with 6 residents and regular visitors, you are looking at potentially dozens of different DNA profiles. The forensic team had to create a comprehensive database of everyone who had legitimate access to the house, then eliminating those profiles to find what didn't belong there. Moscow Police Chief James Fry would later acknowledge the unprecedented nature of the investigation, stating in a press conference, "This is the most complex and resource-intensive investigation our department has ever handled. We are grateful for the support of state and federal partners." Early on, police made several statements that would later be walked back or clarified. They initially said there was no threat to the community, a statement that angered many. How could there be no threat when a quadruple murderer was on the loose? Police later explained they believed the murderer was a targeted attack, meaning the killer had a specific reason for choosing these victims and wasn't randomly attacking people. The impact on Moscow was immediate and profound. Local businesses reported a significant drop in customers as people stayed home. The university saw a spike in students requesting transfers or withdrawing entirely. Parents across the country were calling their college-age children, some demanding they come home immediately. The fear wasn't just local, it was spreading quickly. Police also cleared several people early in the investigation, including the two surviving roommates. A man, Kaylee and Maddie, had called multiple times that night, and a person seen in the grab truck video. The lack of information created a vacuum that speculation rushed to fill. Law enforcement was walking a tightrope, trying to protect the integrity of the investigation while managing public fear and frustration. As weeks passed with no arrest, the pressure mounted. The case was national news. True crime enthusiasts and amateur sleuths on social media were dissecting every detail, often spreading misinformation and harassing innocent people. The case became a phenomenon on platforms like TikTok, Reddit, and YouTube, where self-proclaimed investigators shared theories wildly off base and others uncomfortably close to the truth. The victims' families were doing interviews, pleading for everyone with information to come forward. Students were on edge. The semester was ending, and many couldn't wait to leave Moscow. Campus safety became a national conversation. Universities across the country began reviewing their security protocols, their off-campus housing policies, their emergency notification systems. The University of Idaho offered to relocate students who felt unsafe, and many took them up on it. Then, in late November, there was a break. Police announced they were looking for a white Hyundai Elantra seen in the area around the time of the murders. This was a crucial piece of information. Surveillance cameras and traffic cameras had captured a vehicle matching that description, driving near the King Road house multiple times in the hours before and after the murders. A car seemed to be circling the area, which suggested the driver was either lost or caching the location. Police asked the public for help identifying the vehicle and its owner. Tips poured in, and investigators began the painstaking working of tracking down every white Hyundai Elantra in the region. Behind the scenes, investigators were also working with genetic genealogy, a technique that had been used to solve other high-profile cases like the Golden State Killer. DNA found at the crime scene was being analyzed and compared to genetic databases. This process takes time and requires careful legal and scientific work, but it can be incredibly powerful. At the same time, police were looking at connections between the victim and potential suspects. Did any of them have enemies? Were there any stalkers or threatening individuals in their lives? The answer seemed to be no, which made the case even more perplexing. On December 13, 2022, only 7 weeks after the murders, the police arrested Brian Koberger in Pennsylvania. He was a 28-year-old graduate student studying criminology at Washington State University, which is just a short drive from Moscow. The arrest was a shock. Brian Koberger had no prior criminal record. He wasn't on anyone's radar as a suspect. He didn't appear to have any direct connection to the victims. But the evidence against him was compelling. DNA found on a knife sheath left at the crime scene matched DNA from a trash collected at his family's home in Pennsylvania. The white Hyundai Elantra police had been looking for was registered to him. Cell phone records placed him near the King Road house multiple times before the murders and again on the night of the crimes. The forensic breakthrough that led to Kochberger's arrest was the result of painstaking investigative work. The DNA recovered from the knife sheath was touch DNA, one of the most challenging types of generic evidence to work with. Investigators worked with the Idaho State Lab and private forensic experts to process the sample. They then used investigative genetic genealogy, uploading the DNA profile to public genealogy database to identify potential family members. This led them to Kochberger's family tree. To confirm their suspect, investigators concluded surveillance on Kochberger in Pennsylvania and collected DNA from trash at his parents' home. The match was strong enough to establish probable cause for arrest. Brian Kochberger was extradited to Idaho and charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of burglary. He appeared in court, and the world got its first look at the man accused of these horrific crimes. He was thin, with bushy eyebrows and a detached demeanor. He said little, and his attorney entered a not guilty plea on his behalf. The probable cause affidavit, released after his arrest, provided chilling details. It described how investigators had used a combination of DNA evidence, cell phone data, surveillance footage, and witness statements to build their case. It also revealed that one of the surviving roommates had seen the intruder and provided a description that matched Kochberger. The arrest brought a complex mix of emotions to Moscow. Relief that someone had been caught. There was anger that the arrest took so long. There was grief that nothing could bring back the 4 students, and lingering fear that the legal process was just beginning. Local businesses reported that the arrest helped ease some of the tension that had crippled the town for weeks. Students who had left began to consider returning, but the trauma remained. The affidavit painted a picture of a calculated and cold-blooded attack. Kochberger allegedly turned off his cell phone before driving into Moscow on the night of the murders, likely to avoid leaving a digital trail. He turned it back on after leaving the area. His car was seen on surveillance footage driving towards the house, lingering in the area, and then speeding away. The DNA on the knife sheath was a key piece of evidence. The sheath was found on the bed next to one of the victims, suggesting the killer had removed the knife from it during the attack and left it behind. The case quickly became a flashpoint for national discussions about campus safety and public's fascination with true crime. Universities across the country began reviewing their safety protocols. Parents demanded better lighting, security camera, and emergency alert systems. But the case also highlighted something darker: the way true crime has become an entertainment. Within hours of arrest, social media exploded with speculations, theory, and even fan pages dedicated to the case. Some online sleuths had spent weeks harassing innocent people they believed were involved. The question everyone wanted answered was why? What could possibly motivate someone to commit such a heinous act? Koberger was a criminology student, someone who was studying at the very thing he was accused of doing. Some speculated he was trying to commit the perfect crime, to test his knowledge and see if he could get away with the murder. Others wondered if he had a fixation on one of the victims. The truth is, we may never fully understand why he did it, if he did it. Some crimes defy rational explanation. One of the most discussed aspects of the case is the surviving roommate's account. She saw the intruder, yet she didn't call 911 for hours. This has led to intense scrutiny and, unfortunately, harassment directed at her. It is important to understand that trauma affects people in different ways. Fight, flight, or freeze are all natural responses to danger. She was a young woman, alone in a house. Judging her actions from the safety of hindsight is unfair and cruel. She is a victim too, a survivor who will carry the weight of that night for the rest of life. The University of Idaho has also had to grapple with the aftermath. The school implemented new safety measures, including increased security and better lighting on campus. They offered counseling services to students and staff. They held memorials and created scholarships in the victims' names. But the scar remained. For students who were there that semester, the house on the King Road has become a symbol of the tragedy. It stood empty for months, a place no one wanted to go near. The university eventually purchased the property with plans to demolish it. The house was torn down, and the lot will be turned into a memorial garden, a place of peace and remembrance. Media coverage of the case has been intense and at times problematic. True crime has become a massive industry, with podcasts, documentaries, and online communities dedicated to dissecting every detail of cases like this. While there is value in public interest and accountability, there is also risk of sensationalization and exploitation. The victims become characters in a story rather than real people with families who are grieving. As the legal process moves forward, there are still many unanswered questions. What was Koberger's exact motive? How did he choose these victims? Was there any prior contact between him and any of the victims? How did he know the layout of the house? These questions may be answered at trial, or they may remain mysteries. The prosecution will present its case. The defense will present theirs, and a jury will decide. The Idaho College murders will be studied for years to come. Criminologists will analyze the case for insights into criminal behavior. Law enforcement will examine what worked and what did not in the investigation. But beyond the academic and professional interest, this case is a human tragedy. 4 bright, beautiful young people had their lives stolen. Families were shattered, the community was traumatized. And all of us were reminded that evil exists even in the most unexpected places. As we reflect on this case, it is important to remember Kaylee, Maddie, Jana, and Ethan not as victims, but as the vibrant individuals they were. Kaylee with her fierce loyalty and big dreams. Maddie with her kindness and infectious smile. Jana with her passion and determination. And Ethan with his warmth and genuine goodness. They were loved. They mattered. They had so much life left to live. Their memories deserve to be honored, not overshadowed by the darkness of what happened with them. All we can do is stand with them, honor the memories of those who we lost, and commit to being better, kinder, and more vigilant in our own lives. Thank you, dear listeners, for listening to this deep dive into the Idaho College murders. This case is still unfolding, and there is much more to come. If you have any information related to this case, please contact the Moscow Police Department or the Idaho State Police. And if this episode has affected you, please reach out to someone you trust or seek professional support. You have listened to another episode of Haunted Action. I'm your host, Nazif. I'll be back again with another episode with another true crime case or haunted or supernatural incident. Take care of yourselves and each other. Until next time, I'm Nazif, signing out from Haunted Action.